Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, the throwaway POS server. Skip the shower, we've sent a taxi. Just get here. Over 12 years in tech, and this is a first. What was that? What did you just do? Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. The throwaway POS server. So, as my first tale, this happened this weekend, and is the first time I've had to work all weekend on a job in years. Please forgive the length, but there is no short way to tell this. About 4 years ago, I set up a cheap POS server/desktop for a client that didn't want to spend very much, but needed to replace the laptop they were using to handle their POS software. It was a shocking setup. The system I put together was a pretty simple tower, 3.6 GHz i5, 8 gigabits, with RAID 1 primary and RAID 1 hot swap secondary disks, with the secondary containing backups, which were then cloned to an external drive they could take home each night. I wanted to make sure I had a few ways to retrieve data should something go wrong, and everything was automated to try and avoid user errors. On Saturday afternoon, I was surprised to receive a call, especially as it had been years, but as their usual tech was unavailable, and they needed me to come set up a new machine they had bought to replace the server I had got them. First off, I was wondering what catastrophe had meant they needed to replace the whole machine, and also asked what they were replacing it with. They told me they were unable to log in, and it was showing a random account name on the login screen. Their tech had said it was beyond repair, and needed replacing, and they should go get something cheap from Officeworks. They had came out with a Lenovo 1.5 GHz AMD CPU with 4 GB RAM. They also said the tech had taken the primary drives from the old machine to try and recover data from them. So as I was about to travel 30 minutes to get there, I asked them to go get the HDDs back from their tech, which they gladly did, so I could take a look at the machine as a whole. While there, they were assured that the machine could not be fixed, and were wasting their time. However, they were pretty upset, because they had lost 2 months' worth of client data, and were expecting to spend days trying to sort it out. I arrived just after the owner, and she had the internal drives in hand, but no sign of the external drive. After retrieving the old machine from the trash outside, I gave it a quick clean and reinstalled the 2 drives, and noticed the hot swap drives were still in their bays, with the doors locked, for some reason. It seems their other tech either had no idea they were there, or no idea how to unlock them. So I unlocked the bay with a screwdriver and made sure everything was where it was supposed to be. Thankfully it was, and I was hoping their backups were still intact. Upon boot up, the first thing I noticed was the RAID was disabled, and I was getting inaccessible boot device errors. So I re-enabled RAID, only to get the same error. Into safe mode, and noticed that not only was RAID disabled, but one of the drives had been formatted and was now D drive, and the backup drives were in the same boat, but completely inaccessible from Windows, so I couldn't tell if there was anything on there or not, but at least I managed to get Windows working. The mysterious random account they had mentioned was not the only mysterious account on there, as there were numerous, like someone had been trying to access the main account via multiple others. I really have no idea why. I quickly bypassed the password to the main account, and logged in, checking that their POS was still working and the data intact. Thankfully it was all there from 2 days prior, so I quickly made a backup before I progressed to repairing the rest of the system. It kept getting worse. It seemed not only had the guy disabled and erased RAID disks, and screwed the file system of the backup, but had upgraded to Windows 10 by doing a clean install, without bothering to backup or restore anything along the way. While I retrieved their POS data, I couldn't do anything about all the lost images, invoices and other data. After about 6 hours, I had got to the point of rebuilding both RAID arrays, testing the system, and setting the horrible $400 temporary machine to take over while I finished fixing the original system. Just the relief in her eyes when she saw all her appointments was enough for her to not worry about the expense of it all. The next day I had decided to reset Windows, so I could be sure the system was clean of anything malicious, set up Windows correctly, and be sure it was going to function smoothly. While doing this, they had managed to find the old external drive, and on it was a clone of the rest of the missing data, albeit a little old, as the guy didn't reinstall any backup software when he upgraded Windows 10. So after 2 days, I managed to get their machine back to the state it was prior to Mr. Passion Fingers touching it, and luckily they were able to return the Office Works machine for some store credit, which they will need to spend on a printer, because he also got rid of their old Office laser printer and replaced it with a $60 inkjet. They are now giving me a key to the place, so I can go and maintain their system whenever it needs it, at any hour of the day, and they have learned that a guy that knows about computers isn't the same as someone that does it for a living. Their POS system also now has an online hourly backup. The sad part is, the whole thing would have taken me 30 minutes to fix if they had just called me first. Skip the shower, we've sent a taxi. Just get here. /u/rockout 1337 story reminded me of my own experience with Please Hurry. I don't work in tech support, ready your pitchforks, I'm a developer. I've had plenty of roles that have involved doing stuff outside my job due to a combination of small company and all computer work is the same. Anyway, I was working for a small web dev company that sold software to the public sector. It was all about public engagement, so we had some enthusiastic clients who really wanted to use it and others that didn't really care as long as they were seen to care. This particular month, we'd been adding a few features for our first client in a new country. Even though it seemed to be one of the box-ticking clients, it was a good excuse to get the features ready for the serious users. It got to the day before launch, and I was told to put the site live on the internet. I asked for the hosting details, and was told that the only decision made was to use AWS. So, I start putting together the machines we'll need and I ask about budget. None. There was literally no hosting budget at all. So convinced this client was about the fact it was a box-ticking exercise. I asked if we could ask the client for something in writing about how little traffic they were expecting, and got back maybe 2 or 3 sessions a day. We're only referencing it in one place. So fine, it's their money, I put it on a small instance and go home. True, I had the next day off, but what could the harm be? It's only going to be mentioned in one place. They're expecting a dozen or so sessions all day. If it's slow, we'll bolster it a bit, and we'll have data to show to the client that it's needed. The next day, I'm at home watching TV having not long woken up, and I get a call. Get in here now. Fires. Sure, I say, I'll hop in the shower and head over to the office, I'll be there in an hour. Not soon enough. Skip the shower, we don't mind, we've sent a taxi. Get in now. Fine. I get in the taxi to go half a mile to the office. The first thing I see when I get in is 3 people starting EC2 instances as quickly as they could. The hosting budget had been increased by this point to be effectively unlimited. You see, it turns out that the client's session estimate was a little off. They were right, it was only announced in one place, however that one place was a speech made by the country's head of state. On television. And covered in the morning news on all channels. It all worked out in the end, but it involved working until 4 a.m. half-arsing all the performance fixes we could think of until the site was stable enough to turn off the additional instances added during the day. You've never configured Varnish until you've done so with representatives of the executive wing of a foreign government shouting, "We've got a patient who's bleeding. What are you going to do to stop the bleeding?" at you? Over 12 years in tech, and this is a first. Like the title says, I've been doing tech support for over 12 years as a job, but longer if you count doing stuff for friends and family. I do level 1 help desk for a huge US company, and we have outside vendors who log in via a company portal, Citrix. With these users, it is usually account-related stuff, passwords and 2-factor authentication setups. U equals user/m equals me. After the typical opening, etc. I tired to log in and it said my password was expired. I changed it and I still cannot log in. I checked his account and it doesn't show a password change. This is an issue that is still yet to be addressed by upper level. And if you tried to change it from the login page, it doesn't actually change the password. You have to go to the website reset.companyname.com. You okay? So do I need to close this out? No, just go up to the address bar and type that in. It isn't working. Are you typing it in the address bar at the top of the page? Yeah, reset.abbreviation of companyname.com. No, it is. Gives correct URL again. On getting page cannot be displayed. At this point I'm wondering if the site is down. I check and it loads right up. I just checked the site and it is up and running. I read the URL for the 5th time. Do I need www in front of reset at companyname.com? No, and there is no at in it. I read the URL for what feels like the 10th time. I have put in, and he reads out what he typed, WEB. I couldn't believe he typed in website.reset.companyname.com. No, you don't need to put in the word website. Yeah, I guess I will have to talk to my local IT and try and sort this out. Okay, you have a great day. It feels so bad for his local IT, but maybe they will post a story here. What was that? What did you just do? First time posting here. In my junior year at college, 3 years ago, I had to complete an unpaid internship for a non-profit as a course credit in order to complete my major. It was only 10 hours a week and was assigned quasi-randomly. I was ecstatic to find out that I was working for a non-profit that needed help in streamlining their Google Sheets experience. One of the few things I was very comfortable with. On my first day I get the lay of the office, and this sweet older administrative assistant begins sharing the Google Drive folders with me. She was a retired teacher who volunteered full-time at this organization that mentors students. Poking through the spreadsheets I discovered they had 40+ sheets they share with local schools, and had tons of student data. None of it was sensitive. Over the course of the semester I helped automatically scrape every single sheet and import it into a master sheet while calculating specific data for each month that this older volunteer had to do manually every week. However, what I remember the most was what I showed her that first day, on accident. I opened up the largest spreadsheet they had, which was about 10,000 rows. It was also their most viewed spreadsheet around the small office. This sweet old volunteer is over my shoulder watching me as I bounce around the sheet. As I scroll through all this data, I instinctively click View-Freeze-1 row, so I know what I am looking at as I scroll down. She stops me and says, "What was that? What did you just do?" $me, I just froze the top row. $her, I need you to show me how you did that. She then gestured me to follow her into her office, and she booted up her Chromebook. In that moment I saw the most clever and adorable solution to this age-old problem. This 65-year-old woman had taped a thin strip of notebook paper with each column header written out in pencil along the top bezel of her laptop. She mentioned how often she used that spreadsheet, and she was always getting lost when she scrolled through it. She looked at me and said, "Well, don't I look silly?" and proceeded to tear that thin strip of notebook paper off of her laptop. I just smiled while I watched her open up every other Google Sheet she used to freeze the top row.